For 4 decades, I worked as a therapist in Chicago. The complaints changed with the decades, different jobs, different technologies, different cultural anxieties. But underneath it all, one theme appeared again and again. Someone felt disrespected, and they wanted to know how to fix the person doing it. After 40 years of these conversations, I realized something most people spend their entire lives missing. You can't force respect from another person, but you can stop inviting disrespect through your own actions. Let me share what those patterns look like, because if you're reading this, you're probably repeating at least one of them. You don't owe most people an explanation for your choices, yet you give them anyway. Every time someone questions your decision and you respond with a detailed defense, you're communicating something you don't intend, that your choices need their approval to be valid. Studies on interpersonal dynamics consistently show that excessive justification correlates with diminished perceived authority. I worked with a man named Marcus, a successful chef in his 30s, who couldn't understand why his older brother still treated him like he was 15. Every decision Marcus made, opening a second restaurant, choosing where to live, even what car to buy, would trigger an interrogation from his brother, and Marcus would respond with spreadsheets, financial projections, and carefully constructed arguments. I told him to try something radical. Next time, just say, "I've thought it through," and stop talking. He looked at me like I'd suggested he set his kitchen on fire. But he tried it. 3 weeks later, he came back and told me his brother had been confused, then annoyed. Then, for the first time in years, he'd actually dropped the subject. The constant explanations had been teaching his brother that every decision was up for debate. When Marcus stopped debating, the dynamic shifted. Silence makes people uncomfortable. That's precisely why it works. When someone disrespects you, your immediate response doesn't have to be words. Research on conflict de-escalation shows that those who pause before responding are perceived as more composed and authoritative than those who react instantly. A teacher I knew struggled with a parent who would belittle her in front of other parents at school pickups. She tried defending herself, explaining her teaching methods, even making light of it. Nothing worked. I suggested she try something different. The next time this parent made a dismissive comment, she should simply stop whatever she was saying, turn and look at the parent, not speak, just look, for as long as it took. She called me the next week. She'd done it, stopped mid-sentence during a conversation with another parent, turned and held the dismissive parent's gaze for about 6 seconds. She said the entire interaction froze. The parent stammered something and walked away. The behavior never happened again. What my colleague discovered was that the disrespect was designed to provoke a defensive reaction. By refusing to provide one, she removed the entire payoff. Here's the hardest part. If you're unwilling to lose a relationship, you've already announced that you'll tolerate anything to keep it. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone at the first conflict, but you need a boundary you won't cross, and that boundary needs to stay where you put it. I learned this lesson through failure. My daughter Elena and I didn't speak for nearly 2 decades. She'd married someone I didn't approve of, and when she confronted me about my attitude, I couldn't admit I was wrong. My ego wouldn't let me. So I explained, I justified, I did everything I'm telling you not to do. Eventually, she stopped returning my calls. That was 19 years ago. She drew a line. I tested it. I lost. I respect what she did, even as it devastates me. She chose her dignity and her marriage over our relationship because I wouldn't give her both. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have apologized immediately. I would have changed my behavior. But I didn't have that wisdom yet. You're focused on the wrong problem. You're asking, how do I make them respect me? The real question is, what am I willing to accept? You can't control another person's perceptions. You can't perform surgery on their brain. What you can control is what you allow into your life, what behavior you tolerate, what treatment you consider acceptable. A woman I worked with asked me how to make her business partner stop talking over her in meetings. I asked what she did when it happened. She said she would speak louder, repeat herself, sometimes argue with him afterward about his behavior. I asked, "What if you just gathered your materials and left the meeting?" She was appalled. He'd think I was being dramatic. "Maybe," I said, "or maybe he'd learn that talking over you ends the conversation entirely." She tried it. The first time he was confused. The second time he was angry. The third time he stopped himself mid-interruption and apologized. She hadn't changed his opinion of her. She'd changed what she was willing to sit through. That changed his behavior. After 40 years of practice, I've noticed something. People with genuine self-respect rarely have chronic issues with disrespect. Not because disrespectful people avoid them. Disrespectful people are everywhere, but because people who truly respect themselves don't stay in situations where they're consistently diminished. They don't make excuses for it. They don't wait years hoping the other person will suddenly change. They create distance. They leave. They protect their own worth through their choices. If you find yourself repeatedly disrespected, I'm not saying it's your fault. That would be both wrong and cruel. But I am asking you to examine why you stay. What are you getting from these relationships that makes the cost seem worth paying? Fear of loneliness, financial dependence, family expectations, hope that things will improve. These reasons are real and legitimate, but they're also the things that keep you locked in place while someone treats you poorly. At some point, you have to decide what matters more. I chose wrong with Elena. I chose my pride over the relationship. She chose her self-respect. And even though it cost me 19 years of her life, I understand why she did it. I'm 97 years old now. I've heard thousands of stories about disrespect in marriages, workplaces, families, friendships. And here's what I know. You cannot force anyone to respect you, but you can respect yourself so thoroughly that disrespect has nowhere to attach. You can stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned explanations. You can learn to sit in deliberate silence while someone waits for your reaction. You can be willing to lose what doesn't serve you. You can focus on what you accept rather than trying to change what others believe. None of this is easy. I failed at most of it for decades. I'm still failing at some of it, but I'm telling you anyway because maybe you'll listen. Maybe you'll save yourself the time I wasted. Maybe you'll call your daughter before it's too late.